So yeah, just to kick it off, I thought just to introduce myself. My name is Joanna, and I am the director of marketing at Brighter. I I read law as an undergraduate at Jesus. I started in 2004, and then I delayed, I don't know how you feel, but I really sort of delayed starting my training contract, but I did eventually, about a year and a half, taking some time between the LPC and after the LPC. And I started at Ashurst, and then I qualified into the litigation team where I was there for five years before joining a legal tech startup called Crowd Justice, which became legal, and then joining Brighter. So yeah, super excited to be here, and especially with the Oxford Legaltech and Fintech Society. James, do you want to just introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Joe. So really nice to meet you, everyone. I'm James, so also a lawyer by background. So I trained and qualified at Watson, Farley and Williams in London, qualified into the energy and projects team, where I worked on large renewable energy transactions. Before then, during my training contract, I was a paralegal at Slaughter and May, as well in debt capital markets. And then I moved into the technology scene. So here at Brighter, and I've been here for over a year, and I really work with getting people's hands on our product to build out tools in a no-code solution. So really looking forward to showing you it today. It should be really exciting. Thank you.
Great. So just a brief introduction first to Brighter. We are the no-code, and I will talk a little bit about what that actually means, the no-code automation platform that enables professionals, crucially, to deliver services digitally without any programming. And I'll come on to that all in a second. But just as a bit of as a high level overview, we are now working, we started around, about 2.5 years ago, but have been working on this software in a previous company since 2013. We have offices across Europe, and actually now in New York as well. And we're now over 100 of us. It's grown really fast in the last 2 years, and we have customers across the world, in 15 countries. And just as a little insight into the types of customers we work with, I think you'll recognize some of the logos from say McDonald's and PwC to some of the big firms like Ashurst and Baker McKenzie. The way we look at it is very much that they have the brains, like you all have the brains. You're the ones with the legal, financial, market leading expertise. And we at Brighter, we have the tools that enable them to turn all of those expertise into something digital and interactive. So just kicking off in terms of what we'll cover today, I'll give a short introduction to no code. Maybe it's totally obvious what that is, but I think always good to start with the basics. Then I'll give you a little insight into how Brighter is being used in practice by some of the law firms and corporates that you might have just seen on the previous slide. And I will then hand it over to James, and he'll give you a quick tour of the platform. But what I'll show you at the end is really, if you haven't already signed up for your account, please do, because you'll then get the sort of full training on how to build with Brighter as part of that online course, which will set you up really nicely for the hackathon at the end of Feb. So I just want to start with a little bit of a little perspective on where we've come from. So this concept of digital transformation, you'll have heard it a lot. Everyone's talking about it, and really there's this increasing pressure. And I think it's always, maybe it's totally obvious for you as a generation of iPhone users, but when we talk about digital transformation, things have really exploded. And that moment was, it kind of might have started with the PC and the internet, but it really took off with the iPhone, and not just the iPhone, but the App Store, and really changing how we consume services and information. It's totally changed. And now we're in this place where really, like, chaos and amazement, like anything is possible. And that also applies to how professional services and expert knowledge is delivered. So this slide, I don't know if anyone will even recognize this picture, but if you don't, it is, it's the law library. It's that like really ugly, I even forget the name of the building, but it's, I remember like first week, first term, given, given my reading list for whatever we started with, contract to tort, and literally been given like citations of cases, and I went there and you read it in reports. Like that was 2010. Fast forward like even just like 5 years and we're using Westlaw. Like the last 10 years alone have changed how we've interacted with like legal knowledge and legal services. This is one pretty stark example that I lived through, at least. Hopefully, I don't even know. I'd love to hear at the end, actually, if you still have to use law reports. The second one, like this has just been over the last 9 months. Didn't think we could do advocacy in trials online, and it's happened and it works and it's changed. The next one, and this is really where Brighter comes in. When you think about legal advice, not just legal advice, any sort of expert advice, it started on pen and paper, like old school quill and ink, proper, analog situation. Maybe then we go to fax, and that's super fast and techy, and then it's emails. And now what we're seeing is that legal advice, expert advice, doesn't have to just be delivered in the form of a Word document or a letter or an email. It can be turned into an application, and you can actually create something really interactive and actionable through a no-code platform like Brighter. So that's a little bit of just context of where we've come from. But then what is no code, to really lay it out in the basics? It's a way to build digital applications without any coding skills. So maybe some people here are, you're sort of coders in your free time, which is really brilliant. But if you're not, no code platforms mean that you can build a digital product without writing a line of code, without needing to know any form of computer language. And there are really, I'd say, what we've seen are there's two main benefits from no code, and why it's really like totally changing the market and how people approach digital products. The first main benefit of no code is this concept of being able to build faster. So what we see is, especially with law firms, is that clients like want digital solutions. They represent advice that's available anytime of day, anywhere, any device. It's efficient, it's helpful, it's actionable. It's not a written document. It's something they can really use. So they want digital solutions. But law firms lack both the knowledge, and by that the technical programming skills, and also the budget. So this is a huge barrier, and it has up until really now. And with Brighter, that it's meant that professional service providers haven't been able to build digital products easily, quickly, and therefore not in an inexpensive way. So I just want to touch on this a little bit because I think it's really important. I think it really frames like why this is important, and why no code is important, and why building digital products is important. But just this idea of needing ROI, and just in case you don't know, ROI is return on investment. So it's this concept that if you spend any money on something, it needs to be valuable enough. Like you need to get a return. You're not going to spend money on something that is not valuable enough or worth it to you to invest that money in the first place. So I think this is a really interesting way of looking at things, in a way that many of our customers look at how they approach building digital products. So on in the bottom left corner, well, firstly, so the y-axis is complexity. So the higher up you go, the more complex and more valuable the issue is. And then you have the frequency along, sorry, the y-axis, the frequency along the x-axis. So if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, these are situations where it's pretty simple. The complexity of reasoning is low, but the issues come up like never, like really infrequently. Like no one's going to build a digital product for that, right? Because you might want to, because it might be easy, but it barely ever happens. There's no value. These are maybe what you might call tinker projects. Then you go up. So the top left-hand corner. Here you have complex, high-value issues, high-value problems, maybe like a piece of litigation, for example, might be worth millions of pounds. So really complex, but it doesn't happen often. It might happen once, every 5 years with a company. So you're not really ever going to try and build a digital product to solve that problem. That's always going to remain what we say like analog, will remain bespoke. And then moving over to the top right quadrant, here you see some legal or some business issues which are complex and high value, but no, they are complex and high value, but they happen a lot. So you're suddenly looking at like, cool, this is sort of worth it, but it's almost like sort of too complex. It's too expensive to build that kind of solution because the underlying issue is so complicated. And then you have look at the bottom right, and you have issues that might come up all the time, and they're relatively simple in terms of the reasoning, and that's really great for automation potential. So at Brighter, we're really looking and we're really working with firms, actually not just in the bottom right quadrant, but also the top right quadrant. And that's where no code and really like the complexity and the power of decision automation comes into its own. But what you can see, what I hope you can see in this slide, is with this ROI, like I said, you have to have this level where something is worth it to build. And right now you can see that there's one project that might be valuable enough. And right here you can see that this is how much it costs. So you only have 1 out of 5 projects right now that's worth even spending the money to build it, because it costs so much money to build that product. Then what happens with no code? No code makes it easier to build, it's quicker to build, it's cheaper to build. So then you have a number of other projects which before would have been priced out. People would have been like, well, it's going to cost way too much money to make this bespoke digital solution. We're not going to even do it, even though there's huge amounts of gains to be had if you can create digital solutions for these problems. So no code, when I come to this idea of lowering the ROI bar, is one of the sort of driving reasons, and how no code in the legal tech, and to be fair, like the fintech, like reg tech space, is changing how people can approach how they deliver their services. Now, I've already sort of alluded to this, but the second main benefit of no code is that it enables experts to build. So what we see that there is a gap, right? We have, on the one hand, business professionals, whether they're lawyers or finance, compliance, HR, healthcare, we have people who have the subject matter expertise, but they don't have programming skills. They don't know how to code. On the other hand, we might have an IT team or a developer team who have all of those technical skills, but they don't have the underlying legal knowledge. What no code does is it bridges that gap. It means that business professionals, legal lawyers, legal professionals can participate and actually build digital products themselves. So now just I just really wanted to set the scene on no code and conceptually why it's important and why it's changing things. But now to just move into Brighter and how it's being used in practice. So starting with a simple question, and not, one that simple question. I'm selling software in the EU. What VAT applies? You could You don't know the answer. The answer is it depends, right? It depends on whether you're selling to a company, whether you're selling to a consumer. At the heart of this, ultimately, this tax question, but you can see it as any legal question, you know, was someone negligent? Well, it depends. Was there a duty of care? Was it breached? Was there a loss? Was it foreseeable? Et cetera, et cetera. Like this is what at the very heart of law and rules is this sort of decision-based logic, these decision trees. These decision trees can be quite simple or they can be complex. Like we have customers who have what we call modules. So these decision trees that go into the thousands of nodes. They have thousands of that like layers to them. But at the heart of this is this decision tree logic. And so what Brighter does is it takes that decision logic and it enables experts to map it out. And you can see here, map it out in a, well, you can see it looks exactly like the previous slide in terms of that decision tree. And so you can build, you can automate rules, you can generate documents, actions, email notifications, everything you might want to do as part of your service offering, whether that's internal clients or external clients, you can do with Brighter. You can run it within enterprises and then ultimately scale it and scale the delivery of your knowledge. And part of that means being able to access Brighter in all front end solutions, whether that's in an iframe on a web page, or whether that's as part of Microsoft Teams, or even like WhatsApp or Slack, any front end environment you can use Brighter, and it becomes a very, very interactive tool, which really exists where people work, which we find is a thing that really takes it to the next level. Again, I just wanted to sort of highlight why this is even interesting to specific. I mean, there's lots of reasons why it's interesting to corporates, but given this is the Legaltech Society, I thought you might also like to hear why law firms are interested in this. And it's a way to generate new business and new clients. Digital solutions are able to solve problems, and that before lawyers couldn't, some of the big firms couldn't sort of tackle because it was too expensive to do it on an hourly basis. So you can build a digital product, you can sell it, let's say on a monthly subscription fee model or a different type of model, and you're able to service more of your clients' needs and therefore sort of get in the door with more and more clients and become ultimately like part of their business. You're not, let's say, you're not giving them advice about anti-bribery and corruption laws. You're creating an application that lives in their work environment, which helps employees decide on a case-by-case basis whether or not they can accept a particular gift under ABC laws. So that's it's a very different way of looking at things in a way that law firms really are increasingly sort of getting into. The second sort of bucket is around processes. So there's a lot of work, and I think actually you're going to enter the legal market in a time when a lot of the really boring and terrible work has been for trainees and for young lawyers has been managed by legal tech tools, but it's really around like meaning that you can do things quicker and in a more consistent way, and ultimately you can provide that service on a 24-hour basis because it's being done through a self-service tool. Here are some examples of solutions built on Brighter in terms of like broad categories. Self-service applications is what I sort of just mentioned. Like you have a way of logging into something and getting legal advice like on sort of at will, sort of on a self-service basis. Really frequent use case as well as with rule books. If you ever go and you become a lawyer in-house in like a corporate environment, they will often have rule books, and same with law firms and ways you might approach a particular commercial problem or legal problem, which is effectively a checklist. And so it's something that's very sort of easily automated and therefore scalable across an entire firm. But I wanted to just highlight some of those broader categories. And then just again, a couple, and maybe as well for the hackathon, we're sort of still deciding the structure, but you can start to see the sorts of things you might like to and what you can build. So some really great examples of the self-service tools are things like anything around data, like even like a data breach, reporting what you think might be a data breach. There's tons and tons of regulation which needs to be followed and actioned around the GDPR and data privacy rules, and having those as self-service applications. On sort of document generation, I think this is something where people don't always sort of appreciate this, like core to Brighter, right? You may want to distribute that advice. You might take in the inputs from people sort of through the app, but the output might be a document. So for example, generating very frequently used contracts like a non-disclosure agreement in the corporate context, or maybe it's a lease or a sale agreement or an employment contract. You can get that information and then automatically generate the document, and it streamlines those processes and makes everything much more efficient. On integrated solutions, there are like intake processes, and same with databases that you can connect to various ways of sort of taking in that data. So there's a lot that you can do with Brighter, and that's why a tool like this is valuable, because law firms have quite complex data needs and sort of scenarios. It's not always sort of as simple as maybe like a freelance checker. It can get quite complicated, like any of the repapering situations. So you can imagine how many thousands of contracts need to be updated now because of Brexit. So something like Brighter, you can automate the rules behind it and make that all really sort of simple. I will very briefly, or actually maybe this is I'll just very briefly tell you about two use cases before handing over to James to actually, so he can show you it in terms of the back end. But the legal intake management tool is one of our most popular use cases for corporates. And actually, I don't know if any of you work in a legal clinic or volunteer in a legal clinic or anything like that, but it's a similar concept that you have a number of requests coming in from your user group, whether those are your colleagues in a company, or maybe they're clients, or say with like a legal clinic, it's people coming to ask for legal advice. And what you often need is just like that front door. You need a way to triage the people coming in and saying, right, these people need to speak to this person, or what this person actually needs is just to be signposted this particular bit of information. It's a way to streamline that intake mechanism, which ultimately means that like the right people are being signposted to the right sort of staff members, and it makes it's just one of the biggest pain points. It might not even seem particularly like kind of crazy in terms of like legal tech, but it frees up so much time of like practicing lawyers where they're able to sort of have that initial filtering done through an automated solution that they've built themselves according to their own processes. So that's the legal intake management tool. And sort of with Brighter Open, which is our free version of Brighter for nonprofits, we're seeing that being really, really helpful with charities and being able to better leverage volunteer time. This is, again, I think just a nice example of how you could use Brighter, and it's just taking that decision logic to assess a compensation claim. You can very easily see, like if you've taken a flight, I actually don't know if that applies anymore. I feel like we don't get this because it's EU law. I don't even know. Should like make a Brighter module on that. But if you're in theory, you get compensation if you flew a certain amount of time and it was delayed for a certain amount of time. It's a logic, it's decision logic, and just working that out. It's a super simple tool, but you can see how that might then help. It generates a letter, it kicks off a process, and all of this can be built once and in advance and then scaled across many users. So we also think that's kind of a neat example I wanted to share. But now I will hand over to James, and he can actually show you the tool from the back.
Joe, yeah, I'll just share my screen now. Hopefully you can see it. I'll just expand it as well. Brilliant. And I think a good place to begin is here. So in the back end of Brighter, this is also, just for your information, a version of our legal intake tool. So that legal front door that Joe mentioned, helping you to be triaged to different self-service tools or to the legal expert, depending on your request. So gathering lots of information and having certain rules based on it. And we can see that here in the back end. So this is where you can put essentially the different building blocks together in the no code environment that make up your whole application, your whole workflow. So we'll just have a really quick look here at the different elements that you can put together, and then we'll see how that translates into the front end. So the end user experience of the actual app, and how you can actually run through it in practice as well. So just to take you through here, you can see I've clicked on this first element here, and this is what we call an input node. And when you do so, you can see here on the right, the ability to customize the look and the feel of the content here. And this is ultimately what the end user is going to see. It's what they're going to interact with. And so the great thing with Brighter is you can really quickly and easily customize this content, and you can change it as well, all yourself within the no code editor. And you also have different options that you can build into the screen. So I'll just show you the drop down as an example, but here you can see this is the different options you can put together to start mapping your workflow, your kind of use case. So we can have kind of a single select drop down option, perhaps for different countries, multiple select lists as well. You can have free text fields where you're asking the end user for more granular information, perhaps about a process, maybe it's a data breach as an example. We can collect emails as well, numbers. Numbers we can use, of course, with referencing for certain calculations as well. And we can touch on that really briefly too. We can ask the end user to upload files into the application and also to interact with the date picker too. So just to show you really quickly, when I hit preview here, this will translate us into the front end, move us into a different environment. So here we can see that screen. We've got a nice drop down menu here with various information around what the tool seeks to do. In this case, gathering new legal requests and being triaged to different areas. But also we've got know-how resources baked into this tool as well. You can see as well, we've included images. You can include images too and customize the look and the feel of this experience. And as we move through with the different options you see, we can then be triaged through the process. Before we do that though, I'm just going to go back to the editor and just explain just one or two more features just to give you a bit more context on building in Brighter. The next one is the lines between the two blocks. So this explains, for example, why I get from A to B, and it's where we include our logic. So here, for example, if I click on this line here, we can see the logic that's been included. So if this condition is satisfied, so if someone clicks on tool selection and chooses self-service tools, then they're going to move through this pathway, for example, and then start being triaged through the tool. And again, the great thing about Brighter is you can go in and you can edit the options really, really quickly and easily. So I can quickly build out my workflow from start to finish. And then the final piece that I just wanted to touch on is actions in Brighter. I'll just build one in for you just to show you. So you can click on a context menu, we call it, and build a new block. So just again, showing you live building in Brighter too. And when I've done so, we can see all these different actions on the right-hand side. And this is where it gets really exciting in Brighter. This is where you can automate parts of your processes and where the power really lives under the hood. So we can see here the different options, and I'll just briefly touch on them. So we can do calculations, and we support calculations in Excel in the back end of Brighter. So you can do really complex calculations, whether it's kind of currency calculations, anything really from yield calculations as well. You can do calculations between dates and days as well. So you could have different milestones being included, different kind of deadlines for contracts perhaps. You can create documents within Brighter as well. So you could have a risk scoring report, perhaps for DD purposes. You could generate your own contract as well based on your template if you want to, or just have a nice summary report. There's lots of functionality there. And then emails too. So you can have different notifications within the process, perhaps sending an email if things need to be escalated, perhaps as an approval step. It's just some examples of what I've seen day to day. And then you can also go in and use keyboard shortcuts. So if I wanted to remove this block, for example, you can do so. So that's a really quick look at the Brighter backend. I think now we can jump to the front end just to have a bit more of a look at this tool in practice. So we've seen we can just hit the start button here, and we're faced with a selection at the beginning here around different requests that have been built into the tool. I'm going to start a new legal request here. And what we're going to do, I can just skip this first screen, is capture relevant information around the end user first. So I'll just include my details, first name, surname, for example, and my email address to kick off the process. So we're capturing all of this really useful data. And all of this information that's been inputted into the app is also saved. And you can see it in the statistics section of your Brighter module, helping you to track engagement with tools. And now we're going to capture information actually around the legal request in this case. So we could have a name. So let's call it project test. And then a matter number as well. And then we can have different drop downs, as we can see here. So maybe different business departments, regions as well. So let's say Europe, and then a request type in this case. So let's say I need to do some contract drafting. I'm part of the BD team perhaps, and I want to contact my legal team with some contract drafting. And so I've accessed this tool in order to do so and included these details. We could also have a priority level assigned to it as well to include other processes or maybe an escalation step. So let's say it's high profile, just to show you priority, sorry. And then we could also include other comments. We could even upload an image too if we wanted to, or a document received from the other side, maybe a precedent. Now we've got a summary page built in just to show you the inputs we've been collecting. You can also build in Brighter the ability to go back and make changes if you're not happy with what you've included. So a nice validation step here, but I'm happy, so I'm going to proceed. And because I've done so, and it's high priority, we can see that we've triggered the exceptional matters. And because of that, we can now actually just go and set up a meeting with the legal team if we wanted to as part of the process. But what I want to do is just show you how we can be triaged to a self-service tool. And that's what we've done here. So because of the rules built in the back end of the tool, as we saw here in the editor on your top left, we've now been triaged to certain tools that have been built in. So you can connect Brighter apps to other apps ultimately. So we've got here one here, sorry, for contract drafting, as we can see. So now if I choose my NDA generator tool through these easy to select options, I can now be triaged actually to a new Brighter app entirely. So now we can see a new browser window opening, hopefully on your screens too. And I've got my NDA generator tool. And I won't go through it, but now it's a completely different Brighter app where we're going to generate the document. And it's allowed me to self-serve ultimately. So a really nice use case and something nice to show you today. And hopefully you got to see the difference there between the back end, so where we're building these tools and putting together these building blocks and the different elements, and then the front end where we're actually interacting with the tool. And this is what can be made available, to law firms, to their customers in different environments, as Joe mentioned as well. So I think I'll pause there, and thanks very much.
Thanks, James. Great. Let me just very quickly share my screen again. Oops. Cool. So I hope actually that kind of, that gives you a really good example of the processes and also some of sort of the advice. But like with that flight compensation example, or perhaps sort of some of the work that you're doing as part of your course, you can really see how someone asking for some advice on a particular issue, like, am I an employee or a freelancer, or is my landlord entitled to evict me, or whatever it is, it can be a particular legal problem, and through that decision-based logic, you can guide users to ask the right questions to guide them to the right places and give them some really useful advice. So in terms of what's next, just jump in anytime, but basically I think a number of you have signed up at brighter.io/academy for your accounts. If you haven't, you can do now. You can do so sort of any time, but I would really encourage you to do it. So you get the accounts, sign up with your student email address. as part of that, you will get guided through about an hour of video training, which will take you through more of the details on that back end, which James showed you, and actually sort of walk you through each of the steps of how you would start to build. Then you'll get your accounts and you'll have them. And then you'll also then have them and all the sort of the basic training for the hackathon, which we'll have, and you'll hear more about. And then afterwards, there's always the option as well, if you want to have sort of a digital certification that you can put on your LinkedIn or on your CV to pass an assessment afterwards. And then you'll always have that as well, that accreditation. So